Slow.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson Studio here on historic Market Street in Corning. And what a week, not just a show, what a week we have in store for you. Obviously, a lot of the talk is going to be about the Democratic National Convention. Have you noticed the coverage has been more focused on the Obamas giving a speech than Kamala Harris? Kind of interesting. And yes, the protests in Chicago have begun. We're going to talk about that this morning as well. Oh, I forgot. We had a couple of waves this morning. A couple comments from after the program on Friday. Hello, Frank. Hello. We'll count it. As I was thinking about the election and the vote that I don't trust, I couldn't help ask myself, even if the, quote, illegal newcomers, end quote, aren't allowed to vote, winking, won't they be counted in the census and ultimately when the delegates each district is awarded based on population essentially have the same result? Hope I'm not confused. You're not confused. That has been one of the major concerns is when the census is taken and what that'll do for various districts. So kind of a backdoor way of changing the vote. So that's a very astute point. Thank you very much. Another comment. I have to agree with Ken. And this is from Ken's comment on Friday, which was he's not 100% sure that at the end of the day when the smoke clears, it'll be Kamala Harris running. But this, I continue with the comment. I still think there will be a change this week. Momentum, yes, but we have seen this hype before. Boy, there would be a shock if they took her off the ticket with the momentum that they're talking about. But thank you for all the comments. Oh, by the way, I've got to take a second here. Thank you to everybody who stopped by the Steuben County Fair on Friday and said hi. I was working the booth, and I appreciate everybody who stopped in to say hello, talk a little politics, have a little fun at the Steuben County Fair on their way to the pig races or to get a root beer. So thank you for taking the time out, coming down to see me. And also, I actually parked at a spot to help our friends at the Waterman Center for the Arts. If you're not familiar with that, it's 2 classrooms in the historic Elm Street section of the Dana Lyons School, plus a cafeteria, will become an art center for the Bath community. If you want to find out more, go to Waterman Center for the Arts.org, and I will tell you more about that in future shows, and I'll have the website up. But I did park there, and it was nice to chat with them. Waterman Center for the Arts.org. Okay, this is a little bit different, maybe not the most groundbreaking story, but I thought it was really kind of an important one. And it's by Johnny Olsinski. And it was from the New York Post, and it caught my attention. And he said, in an interview this week, Jimmy Kimmel conceded that the end is nigh for late-night talk shows. Jimmy Kimmel said, quote, I don't know if there will be any late-night television show on network TV for 10 in 10 years. Maybe there'll be one, but there won't be a lot of them. Jimmy's right. The culling has already commenced. After James Corden departed the Late Late Show back in 2023, CBS didn't kick off a dramatic late shift style talent search of yesteryear. The network brass replaced it with a comedy game show called After Midnight. And nobody shed a tear. As much as it pains me to say it, not only is Kimmel's crystal ball sadly spot on, but late night TV should call it quits. None of it is any good anymore. And that's why I brought this up. And it is very disappointing. You know, as you see a lot of the late night people going to the DNC, and it's all political based humor, but only in one direction. You know, it's for like-minded individuals, as we talk about the political bubble. It's like-minded individuals turning into like a Stephen Colbert and laughing at the corny jokes at Trump's expense. But I'm going to continue with this piece. This is not a back in my day, old man shakes his fist at the cloud type scenario. Exactly 0 young people are watching NBC and CBS at 11:30 p.m. Late night is now squarely aimed at 50 and up, MSNBC viewers who don't mind skipping the 11th hour with Stephanie Ruhle and are content with Jimmy Fallon's struggles to make eye contact. Viewers are probably doing the dishes. These shows have never in history been such a tedious afterthought, going all the way back to when Jack Paar took over The Tonight Show from Steve Allen in 1957. Hosts have found unique and clever ways to both embrace tradition and boldly forge a new path. With time, Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, and Craig Ferguson all ably completed that assignment. In my opinion, Johnny Carson, of course, and this is not being too shocking, the best of them all. Their offbeat personalities beamed and inventive wackiness prevailed. We still talk about Karnak the Magnificent, Stupid Pet Tricks, other Jeff the Robot Sidekick, others. Colbert, Kimmel, Fallon, and Seth Meyers, meanwhile, all appear to be suffering from severe senioritis, doing the bare minimum to pass intro to hosting. Letterman's interview with Joaquin Phoenix in 2009 was a bigger viral moment than anything any of them have drummed up in years. Nobody talks about these guys, at least not positively. Fallon lip syncs with celebrities and makes a fool of himself at the Olympics. Colbert's most notable moment was rudely suggesting Prince William was cheating on Kate Middleton, who revealed shortly thereafter that she actually had cancer. Of course, there are many causes of the genre's impending doom. Quote, there's a lot to watch. And now people can watch anything at any time. They've got all these streaming services, Jimmy Kimmel said. Correct again, partly. The show's death has also been sped up by the over-reliance, and this is why I bring this up, the over-reliance on grating political humor. For example, starting Monday, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is going to air all week from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Just what everybody wants, just before they turn in at night to take their rest, have biting political humor. After we read about the DNC all day at our desks, watch speeches on cable news at home, and then see them recapped by network anchors, Colbert is going to cure our apparently bottomless hunger for yet more political discourse. What annoys me about this is not the divisiveness. I'm no mathematician, but you can bet Trump is the butt of a lot more monologue jokes than Kamala. Rather, it's a misconception that in a country boasting the First Amendment, that political jabs are electric, fresh, and risky. The truth is that 9 times out of 10, they're lazy and obvious. And that's why you'll hear me criticize often on this program that orange bad man that they'll say so often and think it's still funny. Beyond the old school fixed time slot format, the cigar chomping, ripped from the headlines reputation will be a turnoff for younger viewers. Watch incredible millennials and Gen Z comics, such as Hannah Eibender and etc. They're not doing White House jokes. They're far funnier than that, and their audience don't want them to. Remember, the sole purpose of The Daily Show, which is still on the air, is to allow Gen X to relive their 20s. Growing up, I watched Late Night with Conan O'Brien every single night. It was my first water cooler show. The next morning, all my friends in middle school would be buzzing, "Did you see Triumph the Insult Comic Dog?" or "I love the Walker Texas Ranger Lover." Because of that young audience Conan built, late night talk shows exploded onto E!, Bravo, Comedy Central, and TBS. Well, as they say, those days are gone. Good luck finding a 13-year-old who next Wednesday says, "How about Colbert's DNC interview with Nancy Pelosi?" I thought it was an important message because I'll be honest, I do watch old Johnny Carson's quite frequently. There's that one channel that plays repeats on the Roku. And I find it really interesting. Yes, there is some political humor in it, but picking on all sides. And it's just not there anymore. So if you want to kind of get in your bubble, tune in to a Stephen Colbert and hear talking points that you can get at MSNBC or elsewhere, I guess that's fine. Jimmy Kimmel, often crying. Remember, he was pushing Obamacare and other issues. Just not... Well, and let's face it, Jimmy Fallon got in a lot of trouble. They thought it was going to cost him his job because he had the audacity to interview the presidential nominee for the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, back in 2016. They wanted to blame him for humanizing Trump and helping Trump win. Do you remember that? That is how biased and ridiculous the late night shows have become. You know, I was thinking something too. I know we talk about this a lot, and many people have commented on it. You know, why aren't Democrats more upset that they never had a say in who their presidential nominee is? And I said, yeah, if it was my party, if it was a Republican Party, that did this, I'd be outraged. But then I got thinking, what about, because the media's been so silent on it, what about, even though Maureen Dowd did call it a coup this weekend, which we'll get to that a little bit later on, what would the media's reaction be if, let's say, at the end of the day, something happened and the Republicans put in Donald Trump without a single vote? Could you imagine the outrage, the quote-unquote threat to democracy it would pose? So another example of that media bias that we focused on so much Friday and all of last week. We will talk more about that bias, but I think we were thinking of it as an individual level. Well, what about at the national level? Wouldn't the media be outraged if it were the Republicans that had done this? Well, the answer, of course, is yes. I mean, they were outraged that Nikki Haley, for some reason, wasn't getting more attention, that Trump wasn't debating her. So, yes, I think if it was just the party elites, like it was with the Democrats, if it was the party elites, I think that chose the Republican nominee, I think you would have a much different reaction from the media as well. So we're going to talk about the kind of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protests that are going on in Chicago and elsewhere. We're going to talk about that when we come back, then focus on the Democratic National Convention. A few things here about Harris's campaign. What did you think about the price gouging proposal that she made? We'll be talking about that as well. A few things here about Trump's campaign, and then just a couple of catch-all things. A few things we'll rush through if we have to at the end. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
You and tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. Even if the paper is held up to the light, even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-898-1002. That's 1-800-898-1002 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-898-1002. Order now.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox. The Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A comment from a viewer. Frank, it has been reported that Iran has been hacking the Trump campaign computer system in an effort to hurt Trump's chance of winning the election. Could it be after allowing Iran access to billions of dollars and not being very responsive to Iran using that money to fund attacks against Israel? I would also, with the proxies, look at the attacks on American bases as well. That the Democrats have sent an underlying message to Iran that the current administration will look the other way if Iran works to damage Trump and his chance for election. If I was a bad actor on the world stage, I would rather have weak leaders like the Democrats put up instead of leaders like Trump that push back harder when pushed. Yes, when it was first reported that Iran was perhaps looking into the assassination or an assassination of Trump, that was reported by the Secret Service, that there was some information that they could be working towards that. It's like Donald Trump Jr. Said that's the best endorsement you could get. You don't want Iran to like you. You want Iran, in this case, to be working behind the scenes to not get you elected, because that shows that you are a true leader, unlike apparently the Harris-Walz ticket. So thank you for that, Ken. I would agree. Now, every graduate of an elite New York City Jewish high school has avoided Columbia for the first time in decades. None of this year's graduates of the elite Upper East Side Jewish high school will be attending Columbia University's premier liberal arts college, and this is the first time that's been the case in decades. And it's at least partly due to the anti-Semitism that has run amok at Columbia. For the first time in over 20 years, we will not have a Ramaz graduate enrolling in Columbia College. One Ramaz student enrolled at Columbia's School of General Studies, and 3 students enrolled in Columbia-affiliated Bernard College for Women, but none at the college, is said. Now, there is a brave judge, according to Betsy McKay, a brave judge who defended the Constitution in ruling on, get this, the UCLA had a, quote, Jew exclusion zone on campus. Unimaginable and abhorrent. Those are the words used by federal district court judge Mark Scarsi to denounce the University of California at Los Angeles for permitting a, quote, Jew exclusion zone to operate on its campus this spring. UCLA let pro-Hamas protesters set up and enforce the zone on its property, and according to Scarsi, the same horrific behavior will happen again unless the court steps in. 3 Jewish UCLA students sued the college, claiming their right to exercise their religion, a core right guaranteed by the First Amendment, was violated in April and May. That's when UCLA allowed pro-Palestinian agitators to take over a portion of the campus, erecting barricades and encampments. The 3 students claimed they couldn't cross major parts of the campus or even enter the library unless they disavowed allegiance to Israel to agitators and encampment checkpoints, something their faith would not allow them to do. The barricades allegedly operated for a week before UCLA officials called for campus police and outside law enforcement to remove them on May 2nd. Later that month, anti-Israel protesters returned with more barricades. Shame on UCLA for tolerating a Jewish exclusion zone for even an hour. The lawsuit will last months, and in the meantime, Scarsi took the unusual step of imposing a preliminary injunction against the university. An ultimatum, in fact. Any part of the campus that is shut down for Jewish students must be shut down for everyone. UCLA announced it will appeal, claiming the judge's order will hamstring our ability to handle events on the grounds. Imagine that UCLA is fighting back when being called out for their Jewish exclusion zones. Jew exclusion zones. UCLA remains free to determine how it will protect full access for Jewish students. If its administrators can't figure out, they don't deserve their 6- and 7-figure salaries. Scarsi's order will reverberate across the nation. He's enforcing what should be a bedrock principle. Government-run universities like UCLA are barred by the Bill of Rights from allowing attacks on the religious freedom of Jewish students or any student. Private institutions, including big names like Harvard and Columbia, are not off the hook either. They receive billions in federal and state funding, tuition assistance for their students, and research grants for their faculty. Federal law requires them to protect students from discrimination on the basis of race, gender, or religion. But university administrators and faculty are almost universally left-wing, so they're reluctant to protect students who belong to the disenfavored group. And that's what we talked about when these protests were going on. They did not care about the safety of their Jewish students because many, as we've seen with these protests, many of the faculty went right along with these protests. And a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if you had a lot of university professors who were in Chicago this week to protest at the DNC. The university tried to get this suit dismissed, claiming that it has a First Amendment obligation to promote free speech on campus. But Federal District Court Judge Richard G. Stearns didn't buy that phony argument. The court, he said, is dubious Harvard can hide behind the First Amendment. Rampant anti-Semitism, not the principle of free speech, is to blame for what Jewish students have suffered. Trustees, alumni, and parents should have the backbone to withhold their support from these institutions, and politicians should have the courage to withhold public funding. Eyes are now on presidential nominee and current Vice President Kamala Harris. Last month, she professed her sympathy for pro-Palestinian protesters. Quote, they are showing exactly what the human emotion should be as a response to Gaza, she said. To be fair, she added a qualification. Quote, there are things some of the protesters are saying that I absolutely reject. So I don't mean to wholesale endorse their points, but we have to navigate it. I understand the emotion behind it. Navigating anti-Semitism is a nasty, nasty business. Sadly, we can't count on our elected officials to fight it. That's why our Constitution is so important. It protects the rights of those out of favor, like Jewish students on college campuses. The heroes are the judges who uphold the Constitution's principles. Political correctness be darned, we'll say. That's Betsy McKay. And that ties in with what we're seeing in the streets of Chicago. We've talked about this extensively. It piqued my interest when we started to hear about the potential of protests, being that it's in Chicago, reminiscent of 1968. Well, they have arrived. Now, keep in mind, the DNC does start today. I know Republicans were, Tuesday through Thursday? They are Monday through Thursday. Fiery anti-Israel protests got underway on Sunday on the eve of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, with demonstrators disrupting a delegate party and one warning, well, I'm not going to say what that, we'll put it this way. Welcome to Heck Week, they put it. Protesters couldn't wait to confront prominent Democrats over the war in Gaza as hundreds flooded the street and vowed to, quote, bring the war home, end quote. Demonstrations are expected to happen throughout the week as National Democrats celebrate the nomination of Harris and her running mate Walz. At one point, protesters targeted a delegate party at Navy Pier, where one rabble-rouser reached the stage, grabbed the microphone, and accused the crowd of, quote, funding a genocide. So none of this should come as a surprise. It's kind of a reap what you sow, and we actually have a piece that I think says that exact term in it. This is going to be interesting how, number one, the media covers it. If they really do, they will hear it first, but anything that would be portrayed as negative towards Democrats will not be a major focus. This is going to be a week about building the momentum of Harris, how amazing all the speakers did, how amazing specifically she did, that she's going in almost up 5 points, and by the end of the week, she'll be up 10 after her speech, something to that extent. So prepare yourself. It is going to be a frustrating week of media coverage. And coverage of here, you're going to find coverage of the media's bias as well, where you may not find elsewhere. They're calling it a week of justice, the protesters said. One organizer, who only gave her name as Janan, said disruptors were there to confront the Democrat Party over Israel's military campaign in Gaza. You should see some of the signs. Bombala Harris is one of the terms being used. Bomb, like dropping a bomb. One sign here saying, do not count on my vote. You wonder how many of these people at the end of the day, though, are still going to vote, don't you? DNC go home. Demonstrators waving Palestinian flags chanted. Or we're going to bring the war home. That's a weird threat, isn't it? Others that joined protests on Sunday called for stronger abortion and LGBTQ rights. She's not going to take a legitimate stance. So until we can have Kamala Harris actually come to the table and make a legitimate concession, actually make a legitimate push to get the Arab and Muslim vote, said protester Nail. You can't just say appreciate things and high-level abstracts in order to get our vote, another protester said. So they threatened to bring the war home. And chanting, of course, from the river to the sea. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. I see some comments coming in. Keep the comments, keep the waves coming in on this Monday morning. We're having a blast already. We're just getting started, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Step for summer and save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. Svedka Vodka, normally $20.99, is on sale for $18.99. Save up to $24 on a case with mail-in rebate. Your final cost, $12.99 per bottle. 1.5-liter Woodbridge wine, regularly $11.99, is on sale for $9.99. Save with a rebate of up to $24 on a case. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount, so it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Let's go to some viewer comments. So many love Hollywood election TV. That's a good way of putting it. But this is all evil to what the USA is and what vets fought for and more. Support of our enemies is wrong, as is price control of food, and it will be evil and worse to find food in this store. It will be more difficult to find. We'll talk about that in general here in just a little bit. This week, they're destroying Chicago. Yes, the protests. Did you see they put up gigantic walls, fencing? We're going to talk about that as well. Another comment from a different viewer. Harris has had 3.5 years to address price gouging. This is just lip service. And if people don't see through the baloney, then they must be in a coma. Yeah, this idea of on day one, she keeps pushing what she's going to do day one. Well, day one was 3.5, almost 4 years ago. So if this is such a good system, why don't you get it through now so the American people don't have to suffer for the next 6 months, 5 months? But back to the anti-Israel protests. As I like how Stephen Nelson puts it, threatened to tarnish Kamala Harris's coronation. A coalition of mostly left-wing and Arab and Muslim American groups are planning to protest marches, the first and largest today at noon, ahead of retiring President Biden's evening appearance, and again on Thursday at 5, ahead of Harris's acceptance speech. The Democrat Party is a target, and not Joe Biden as an individual or Kamala Harris as an individual. She's just as complicit as Biden is, said one of the protesters, who's the executive director of the Arab American Action Network. If Kamala Harris loses to former President Trump, then they have nobody to blame but themselves, he said. This, and listen to this quote and tell me what you think of this. This is the Vietnam War of our generation. Now, again, we know that the left has difficulty putting things into perspective. You know, now is the worst time in the country. I'm the most aggrieved person ever. Those type of things. It's very egocentric mindset. But this is the Vietnam War of our generation, according to protesters. Protesters will be camped out at Chicago's Union Park, a roughly 10-minute walk from the nearby United Center that will serve as the main convention venue. Now, Harris has had some protests at as her rallies. Harris's brush off of the heckling, though, drew mixed reviews, with some on social media praising her directness and others saying it was insulting to the communities the activists represent. Quote, people are very upset with that because there's an assumption that protests of the DNC, protests of Biden, protests of Harris mean that somehow our community and other people protesting are supporting Trump. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Some protesters have now taken, we know we had Genocide Joe as a nickname for this whole time. Now they have Killer Kamala. Some protesters have dubbed Harris as Killer Kamala. Despite the ticket swap, quote, there's really not much going to be different. No difference at all. The protest coalition has been granted a permit to march within sight of the convention's venue, but has been bogged down by last-minute struggles over whether they're allowed to use a sound system and portable toilets in the park, and also are seeking a longer march route. So we'll watch and see if the media covers this. If the anti-Israel loons take over Democrats' convention, the New York Post editorial board says liberals only have themselves to blame. The real story of the Democratic National Convention may wind up being what goes on outside the hall, as 50 to 100,000 anti-Israel protesters aim to fly the Hamas flag and generally share their fury at the Biden-Harris administration's support for the Jewish state. Chicago's done its best to prepare. Anti-cop Mayor Brandon Johnson has given the Chicago Police Department the longest leash it'll see on his watch to keep a lid on it, even as he's voiced great sympathy for his fellow far lefties. The Windy City has also spent big to move its many illegal immigrant guests and the regular homeless out of sight, lest they show up on national news and remind voters what Democrat leadership really means for American cities. Yes, if you want your city cleaned up, have the Democratic National Convention there. That'll do it every time. Make sure to keep those illegal immigrant guests off the street and the homeless off the street, because you don't want to see what the Biden-Harris policies have brought. And they've isolated the area around the United Center from the general public to frustrate protesters looking to make the ugliest scene possible. Local businesses, meanwhile, have boarded up. They know how much the left loves to window smash, and the Hamas lovers have won the right to do 2 major marches near the DNC on Monday, when President Biden speaks, and on Thursday, when Harris does. As for the protesters themselves, on the one hand, this isn't 1968, when young men's fears of being drafted to fight in Vietnam fueled the siege of Chicago. On the other hand, the U.S. hard left is a lot larger these days, packed with veterans of 2 decades of violent as possible protests in the name of a whole series of causes, really united only by a hatred of America, and taught by experience that Democrat-run cities won't hold them account for damage they do. Yes, this is a free-for-all. They can. That's why the businesses are boarding up the windows. They could get away with smashing windows, looting, destruction, because they know the mayor, the far-left mayor, isn't going to punish them. It's just like the college kids. They didn't receive any real punishment. And if the protests don't make major news, the movement may stand exposed as the pathetic minority it actually is. Protesters were a non-factor at last month's GOP gathering in Milwaukee, and their passions have ebbed now that genocide Joe Biden isn't the candidate, but killer Kamala Harris is, who they have every reason to think will be far less pro-Israel. The prospect of lefty displeasure already helped move her to skip over Pennsylvania's Jewish governor Josh Shapiro as her running mate. Yeah, think about that. That's another thing the media did not focus on. But because Josh Shapiro is Jewish, he was not considered for vice president, was not put on the ticket, because that's how this far left, and I think the New York Post, who I like a lot, does a disservice to call it a pathetic minority. This group has grown. And that's why even Van Jones had to admit there's a marbling in the Democrat Party of anti-Semitism. So I think if you downplay them, now the media is going to downplay the protests, and they're going to downplay Harris not picking Josh Shapiro and those type of issues, and they're going to downplay the size of the actual anti-Israel, anti-American movement within the Democratic Party. But they do a disservice to us by doing so. If they do if they do manage to dominate the conversation, though, the Democrats only have themselves to blame. They placated marches through the streets of New York and other big cities, let campuses be taken over, and tolerated the hate for far too long. They will reap what they sow. I just don't think you'll see a lot of coverage. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how large the protest gets, no matter the vile, disgusting things that are being said, I just don't think it's focused on by the media. They don't want to have the split screen like they did in 1968 with the protests outside going on while the speeches were going on. They're not going to do that. They know the damage. That's the same reason why they're fine with cleaning up the streets and getting rid of the homeless and illegal immigrants on the streets just for this 1 week, because they want this to be Harris's shining moment. Now, I do think it'll be interesting when you see the other speeches. Biden speaks tonight. You're going to have the Obama speak at some point. I think it's going to be interesting when you watch Harris to see how the other speakers outshine her. Now, the media won't cover it that way, but I think just the optics of it, and when you watch her and her cadence, what difference you'll notice, and will the media cover that? I do think this is just a coronation is the perfect way of putting it. They're going to make sure that Harris looks the best they possibly can make her look in the media. This is the media now. There's something like 15,000 journalists that are going to be there. You can see the excitement from the media when it comes to attending the Democratic National Convention if you watch the coverage. Not so much when it's Republican National Convention. We're going to talk more about this. What are your thoughts? Are these protests, is the war in Israel, our generation's Vietnam? I do actually have another article I hope I can get to show you how the left can never put anything into perspective. We'll see if we get to that later on. But we do have to take a break. I don't want to run too late. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Brighten your smile this summer with Watkins Glen and Elmira Family Dentistry. With their summer teeth whitening special, you'll have a beautiful whitened smile without all the gimmicks and hundreds of wasted dollars. Their licensed dental professionals will apply the product for you in one of their beautiful and relaxing offices. Their materials are made in the USA and are prescription strength to provide an unbelievable result. Give them a call now to schedule your appointment.
I'm Marian Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Tired pan that always sticks. It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
Sorry. I know you can hear me type. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, just responding to some of your comments. Keep the comments coming in. So Chicago, the irony of this, and I know it's hypocrisy at its finest, but Chicago begins erecting miles of security fencing ahead of the Democratic convention. Now, I mean, I guess if you're Walls, you could say, well, I'll just buy a 30-foot ladder. I'll start a 30-foot ladder company. The city of Chicago is erecting miles of security fencing all around the downtown area as the city gears up for the Democratic National Convention. The security fencing is not only going up around the United Center and McCormick Place, but fencing is also being erected up and down retail areas along Michigan Avenue. In addition, fencing is going up around the areas designated as protest zones. I just thought fencing and security fencing and walls didn't work, but I guess it just depends on the scenario. Now, Michelle and Barack Obama are among the top speakers at the Democratic National Convention. This has really been the media's focus because there's that type of celebrity status that they've given to the Obamas, saying that Michelle Obama is one of the, where did I see here? Polls consistently rank the former First Lady as one of the most popular figures in American politics. She was the most glaring omission from the DNC lineup announced on Sunday, but the source confirms she will be taking the stage in her hometown of Chicago. Former President Obama will also make a primetime address tomorrow. The DNC will kick off tonight with... Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? President Biden is headlining tonight with, I think, Jill, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will also be speaking tonight. I wouldn't think you'd want the Monday time slot. Kind of kick off the event. Maybe. I mean, it almost seems insulting in a way, but apparently not. Michelle Obama has addressed every party convention since her husband was nominated in 2008, with her previous address all garnering prime speaking slots. She received far more engagement online than any other speaker in the 2020 convention. She denounced then President Trump as in over his head in a speech that went viral on social media. All right, so here's what we have night by night. Monday's theme, for the people. Not the people that they're scooting off the streets there in Chicago to make it look better. Not those people. For the people, Biden and Dr. Jill Biden speak along with Hillary Clinton and welcome from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. That's tonight. Tomorrow, a bold vision for America's future, and that will be former President Obama plus second gentleman Doug Emhoff with a welcome from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. On Wednesday, it's a fight for our freedoms. VP nominee Tim Walz delivers his acceptance speech, preceded by former President Bill Clinton. Again, I know I said this a lot, but Bill Clinton, for a very small window there, got caught up in the Me Too movement. And Gillibrand denounced him. Many others wouldn't campaign with him. I guess Democrats forgive and forgot. At a time when Me Too was really moving along strong, going after people like Weinstein like that. Well, obviously Clinton's history and past would come up, and rightfully so. But now I guess he's back in favor, and he'll be speaking on Wednesday. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. On Thursday, the topic for our future, and that's Vice President Harris accepting the convention's nomination for president. Not the people's, not a single vote. But that's neither here nor there. The party seems fine with it. But yes, Michelle and Barack Obama among the top speakers. Dozens of other speakers are also expected as well, but details have not been released. They're making it all about the stars, too. Have you noticed that? Where it's, could Beyonce show up? Could Taylor Swift show up? I know there's a host tonight, an actor I'm not familiar. And that's not a knock on them, just not someone I'm familiar with. And it sounds like they may have a celebrity hosting the event each night. So Michelle and Barack giving a speech this week. For the people is tonight. Let me ask you this. Will you watch? I'm kind of curious to watch and see what Biden has to say, if I'm being honest, tonight. And also how he looks and how he acts. But I know it will be a teleprompter speech, so it won't be quite as difficult as the debate off the cuff. But the question I pose to you, will you be watching? Are you going to just wait for kind of the transcripts or the highlights? Will you not care at all? There's also that avenue. What are your thoughts? I mean, we can write the articles already about Harris's speech. It's historic, groundbreaking, perhaps one of the best nomination speeches ever given. Now, you noticed when the media talks about, they never talk about the fact that Harris has never received a vote to be the nominee for president. That's something that's somewhat ignored in this. They are trying to push it as things as normal. It's normal as usual. We're going to talk about what some of the left media have to say about the convention, about Harris. We also have a few things here about the Trump campaign in general, the Harris campaign in general. What did you think of the price gouging scheme by Harris? That came out on Friday after the program, so we haven't had a chance to talk about that much as much, or at all, I should say. We kind of had an idea of what was going to be in it, and we talked about it on Friday. We'll take a better look at that a little bit later on. But right now, we have to take a short break, and when we come back, the key things to watch for at the DNC, according to the not at all bias CNN. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work
for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back. Boy, this hour's going quickly, isn't it? Fastest 2 hours on the air, let me tell you. This is Frankly Speaking. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. It sounds like Chicago businesses are preparing for a, quote, convention of love. Yes, Ken, I would agree with that. But don't worry, the media will still present it as exactly that. This is just going to, the feeling in that arena. The vibes in that arena. You can hear it all play out already. It's just so tedious. Another comment from a different viewer saying, I don't think I'll be able to watch the DNC for fear that I'll smash my TV. Yes, then don't do that. There's no sense getting worked up. Let me do your dirty work. I will watch and report back all week long here on Frankly Speaking. Now, CNN says the key things to watch for. If you are one of the viewers that decides to watch the convention, Harris has effectively erased the polling and fundraising gaps Biden faced, which reflects voters' desire for a different choice than the one they'd faced in 2020, and underscores how quickly she has hit the ground running. Harris will give a primetime speech on Thursday and frame the race against former President Trump as the two prepare for at least one debate in September and the start of early voting in some states soon thereafter. And I see that already. She went a little off the teleprompter the other day, got kind of in the word salad. So keep in mind, Thursday is going to be telepromptered. And again, that's not a knock. Everybody at these rallies do teleprompters. I'm just saying, off the cuff, ad-libbed, Harris is not that effective with her sentencing and how it ends up turning out. But with teleprompter, people seem to be liking her speeches in the Democrat Party. Another thing to watch for, I thought this was a good point from CNN. Democrats are getting perhaps the most awkward part of their business out of the way, sending off Biden. That's why I think tonight's going to be interesting to see what Biden has to say. Not that I think he's going to go off script or say anything bad. Just interesting. Yes, they are going to give him a hero's welcome. We know that. Democrats acknowledge that this convention will look much different than it would have if they were sending him to a second matchup with Trump. They also said watch for Trump's shadow. The former president will be omnipresent at the DNC. The biggest job Democrats face this week, though, could be insulating Harris from Trump's attacks, many of which she's previewed by portraying her as one of Washington's most liberal Democrats and a flip-flopper who has disavowed the position she took in 2019 as a presidential candidate. And she has been doing that. But the media is really nice, calling it a U-turn. You're going to find out more about Walz. That's something to look for. You'll hear a lot about him being a school teacher and his service and a football coach. Barack Obama and Bill Clinton will also speak at the DNC, a stark difference from the Republican National Convention, where aside from Trump, no former president or vice president took the stage. Two former first ladies, Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama, are also scheduled to speak. And then watch for handling of the protests. For all that's changed since the party traded Biden for Harris, the grinding, bitter debate over the administration's handling of Israel's war in Gaza remains. Outside the convention, tens of thousands will protest against the Biden administration's support, most notably via weapons sales of the Israeli military and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and those protests have begun. Democrats gather, says Stephen Collinson, to enshrine their stunning turn from Biden to Harris. It begins with adulation for President Joe Biden, who will speak Monday night. Yeah, they're not, trying to hide the fact that they're probably doing it to get the awkward part, as CNN said earlier, out of the way. This is Stephen Collinson, by the way. But the moment will be bittersweet for the 81-year-old president, who, despite a productive tenure, was pressured by his own party leaders to end his re-election bid when a 50-year career succumbed to the ravages of age. Sounds like he's still bitter with Nancy Pelosi. It doesn't sound like they're friends anymore. So will it be difficult for Biden? Think of the awkwardness there. For Biden to get up in front of many of the people who pushed to oust him. Now, you've heard my theory. It's just kind of a little bit of fun here, which is I don't think anybody wants to see Trump win more than Biden. Because if Trump does ultimately beat Harris, he can say, see, I told you so. I'm the only one that could beat him. You guys pushed me out. You kingmakers, you elites pushed me out. And look what you've done. It'll never be admitted. It'll never be said in public. But I bet you if you could look into Biden's heart of hearts, he may just want Trump 2024. Biden told Americans last month when he announced his departure from the race, the history is in your hands. The power's in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. The response from the party was a swift coalescing behind Harris as hopes of some activists for a multi-candidate race among Democrat rising stars were dashed. Walz and Harris leading their new ticket. Democrats now hope to thwart a White House comeback by Trump amid panic over the prospect of a second term he plans to devote to, quote, retribution. Isn't it interesting to see them say that we're fearful of Trump's retribution? You've literally used lawfare for the last 4 years against a former president. What would you call that? We're supposed to take them at their word. Okay. Republicans left their convention in Milwaukee a month ago, convinced they were heading for a landslide victory. I don't really think that's true, but that's how they're trying to present it. But Harris has sent a jolt of electricity and, you guessed it, joy through her party, mending some of the potentially catastrophic splits in Biden's coalition. She pulled into a narrow lead over Trump in some national polls, reestablishing a neck-and-neck race with the former president in survey averages. And she's restored multiple paths for Democrats to secure the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. The mood shift in the party is astonishing, even if Harris's biggest test still lies ahead. J.D. Pritzker saying, first of all, you were talking about a re-election nomination, a renomination, and now you're talking about something completely different. This is a candidate who energized the party in a way that I haven't seen certainly since 2008. So now they're even knocking Biden in this process. Well, we weren't really that excited about him even last go around. Or Hillary. So they haven't seen this kind of energy since Barack Obama. That is how they're trying to present it. This is exactly how the coverage is going to be after the speech. Oh, the momentum's in her favor. This is the energy, the vibes in this room. Democrats know history is in their hands. Democrats have put the fate in the hands of a vice president who is not seen as one of the party's strongest political forces. Remarkably, for a party nominee, Harris has yet to earn a single vote for president. She ended her first campaign in 2019 before the Iowa caucuses and claimed the nomination this time by acclamation after a virtual roll call of delegates rather than a primary contest. She faces a critical debate clash with Trump on September 10th, and her capacity to maintain the momentum of the campaign could be tested in future television interviews. They're already warning, and this is Stephen Collinson, but they already know when it is off the cuff, when it is an ad-libbed type response, she doesn't do good. So they're preparing themselves for that, and that's why the media and others in the Democrat Party aren't upset that she's not giving press conferences. They don't want to see that. Democrats are meeting under the historic shadow of the '68 convention in Chicago when activist violence sparked by the war in Vietnam transmitted an unflattering picture of the party to Americans who eventually embraced a right-wing Republican law and order message. Right. All right, if law and order is right-wing, I'm all for it. Harris turns the Democrat campaign from one focused on the past to the future. And so far, Harris's tactics are working. Part of those tactics, of course, not giving press coverage. Yeah, Harris is only at the beginning of a showdown with Trump, who has shown he'll do anything, including threatening democracy to win power, says Stephen Collinson. The former president has, for example, started to refer to the switch from Biden to Harris as an unconstitutional coup, raising fears he's laying the groundwork to challenge another Democratic election if he loses in November. He's not the only one calling it a coup, folks. Some in their own party are calling it a coup. Who was it? Maureen Dowd this weekend saying, hey, you might not like it, but a coup's a coup. Anyway, so that's your quick look at what CNN had to say. Democrats, well, hold on. No, let me take my break. Wow, I'm running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
It's the Chevrolet Summer Drive Sales Event and Blaze Alexander Chevrolet Buick GMC of Mansfield. The brand new Traverse is here. We have 5 in stock and they're ready to roll. Plus, we have the all-new Equinox EV on the lot. We're offering discounts and rebates as much as $11,000 on new Silverado 1500s and up to $6,000 on Silverado 2500 and 3500s. Get rates as low as 1.9% on much of the new Chevy lineup. Stop and shop or check us out at BlazeChevyMansfield.com because we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Hard to believe, but we are wrapping up our number one of Frankly Speaking. Now, Democrats are going to highlight January 6th a lot during the gathering this week. An official with Vice President Harris's campaign told CNN that among those speakers are Representatives Jamie Raskin and Benny Thompson, who both served on the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th insurrection. Retired Sergeant Aquilino Gono, one of the Capitol police officers injured during the attack, will also address the convention. I do understand that watching the convention will be frustrating for many of you, so tune in to Frankly Speaking every weekday morning at 6, and we'll go through all that you need to know. We're going to talk more about the convention when we come back. A few things here about the Harris campaign. We've got a few things here about Trump. Hopefully we can get to some New York State issues and some general issues as well. I know some of you have been having difficulty, or at least you've registered to vote but haven't got confirmation. I've heard from a few people on that, and I wanted to highlight, if I can get it here before we go to break, this is from Steuben County, but it's for any county. You can go to that website there and look up if you are registered to vote and registered at the right place. So go to voterlookup.elections.ny.gov/home/search. And keep in mind the deadline for voter registration, absentee or early vote by mail applications. I think it's January 8th isn't the general election, but the October 6th number is accurate there. So apologize about, I must have typed a little fast, typed in the wrong date there. All right, so our number one is in the books. We're going to talk about the Hollywood DNC. Yes, Hollywood heads to Chicago, and there's speculation about who will be there. We'll talk a little bit about that. Couple things here just about Harris in general. I know I just didn't want to get into another topic, so now I'm rambling on. Feel free to reach out at any time. If you're new to the show, you see that number on the bottom of the screen. You can text or leave me a voicemail 24/7, and I'll do my best to. Sometimes I miss them, and I apologize, or they're just not right for the topic. But I'll try to do my best to read them on the air, so feel free to send us a message at any time, and any suggestions for upcoming interviews as we near the November election. All right, stay with us. 1 hour left together. Yes, our number one in the books as we begin our number two in just mere moments. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back after this.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Limited all-wheel drive featuring heated leather seats and power moonroof for only $379 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, thank you so much for joining us as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. And I'm your host, Frank Acom. Keep those comments coming in. One viewer asking who will really be running the Harris office, Clinton, Obama. Heaven help us. I think there will be. Big money's a big part of this, too. Keep in mind, big money has perhaps never played a more important role in a presidential election, meaning big money got to Biden, was one of the groups that got to Biden, the Nancy Pelosi's and those type of people as well. But when the big money started drying up, that's when he realized, okay, I'm going to step aside. And then they opened the floodgates, let Harris have all that money, and that started her, quote, momentum, her trajectory. But Hollywood heads to Chicago. This is what CNN loves. When Barack Obama accepted the presidential nomination in 2008, Jennifer Lopez was in town. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner attended the proceedings together, and Kanye West performed at an Obama campaign party. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? 4 conventions later, many things are different in Hollywood, but the A-list enthusiasm for the party's presidential ticket remains the same. Not since the Obama years has celebrity enthusiasm been so high, merging the world of pop culture and politics as the race kicks into high gear. John Legend is set to headline a show Tuesday for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. On Wednesday, Veep star Julia Louis-Dreyfus is hosting a panel with the country's 8 female Democratic governors. And on Wednesday night, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts will perform at a benefit concert thrown by the Creative Coalition. Some of these other names I'm not really familiar with, so we'll just jump ahead. This is the big important takeaway. High-profile speakers are still being finalized, multiple sources told CNN, adding that a slew of actors will speak on the convention's main stage. But speculation has run rampant on 2 stars in particular, Taylor Swift and Beyonce. With no major performer announced, fans of both Beyonce and Swift are hopeful that the women who both endorsed the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020 will show up in Chicago. Representatives for Swift and Beyonce did not respond to CNN's request. I don't know how this plays out. Sadly, we've seen the polls that show that some people make their decision based on, specifically Gen Z, make their decision based on celebrity endorsements. I would think this is more of a Hillary Clinton scenario where you have so many celebrities just to keep the interest going for the candidate. This is important. Listen, it's important to Democrats, and we may laugh, but for whatever reason, celebrities do seem to have a big sway over people. As part of the convention's Dem-Palooza, public events and training, the Democrat National Committee announced there will be spaces where attendees can make friendship bracelets. Beaded bracelets are often traded between Swift fans at her concerts, inspired by the lyrics, "You're on your own, kid," from the singer's album Midnight's. Enough about that. Okay. So there you go. If you're a big celebrity person, you'll see plenty of them at the convention. Speaking of who will be attending the convention, hey, we got some waves coming in. Thank you. Listen to this. If you don't think there's a bias in the media, Watch the coverage and the excitement of the journalists who are at the DNC, and go back and watch what it was like at the RNC. Journalists not so excited to be there. But some 15,000 journalists are expected to descend on the city to cover the whirlwind nomination of Vice President Kamala Harris. Those same 15,000 journalists who apparently have no problem that she is not giving press conferences, is avoiding them like the plague. From Fox News to TikTok, the whole world will be watching what happens in Chicago, which could well set the political course of the country for years to come. It's an opportunity to witness history, said Chris Cuomo. Well, history, not a single vote from a Democrat went to the nominee. Is that the historic part? While the process is largely ceremonial, Harris was officially nominated by a majority of delegates during a virtual roll call earlier this month. The convention, which runs Monday through Thursday, will likely bring a spectacle of speeches, protests, and networks hope plenty of must-see TV. The DNC, which took possession of the United Center on June 24th, began repurposing 25 hospitality suites last month to serve as anchor booths for TV and cable networks. The suites have been white boxed with an added layer of drywall and flooring to create the temporary studios. Outside the parking lot, south of the arena, has been transformed into an expansive media village where trailers, satellite trucks, and remote workplaces are clustered by networks. Do you think there'll be a lot of coverage of the protests? I think they could talk about it now, but I don't think they like the optics of it. So I have a feeling it probably won't necessarily be covered in the way that it should. Wow, we got a lot of comments coming in. But yes, 15,000 journalists there to, quote, witness history, according to Chris Cuomo. Now, the DNC will be another stage, according to the New York Post, to prop up Kamala Harris's lies. Democrats will be putting on a show at their national convention this week, and absolutely nothing but a show. Vice President Harris has already been crowned the nominee in an online vote. Nothing will actually be decided in Chicago, which makes the convention as much of a fake as the candidate herself. The show will strive to present Harris as a fresh face with new ideas, rather than a veteran Hollywood progressive pitching the same policy mix she's embraced these last 3.5 years as President Biden's number 2. Policies that sent inflation surging, millions of illegal migrants surging into the interior, energy prices soaring, and the economy slowing. The fiction is of the party joyfully embracing this surprise marvel. Yes, it's amazing. Once she had the reins taken off of her, and once she got rid of, 91% of her staff through the years, who were just keeping her brilliance of politics down, we see the real Kamala. Historic, joyful, one of the best to ever do it. Rather than falling back on her after its leaders pushed out Biden when they finally realized he could only lose and drag down their Senate and House hopefuls too. Yeah, she's a less familiar face than Joe, mainly because she's been a do-nothing vice president who largely avoided the media once it became clear she'd stick her foot in her mouth every time she was in front of a camera without a teleprompter. And trust me, they are practicing for that debate already because they know very well that off the cuff, she struggles. Yes, she can read a teleprompter, but off the cuff, she struggles. Recall the disastrous Lester Holt interview where she claimed she'd been to the border when she hadn't and got called out on it. Democrats are relieved that Joe's out, but their enthusiasm for Kamala depends on keeping her a blank slate to most viewers. Yes, that's why they're very happy with her not going to the media. They want people not to know about her. And she's inevitably filling in that blank, and so ending her honeymoon. She just doubled down on the worst of Joe's policies, promising $2 trillion in goodies that adds up to little more than vote buying. Canceled billions in medical debt, forgiving more student loans, a $6,000 tax credit for newborns, $25,000 for home buyers. Spend, spend, spend. More of exactly what caused the crushing inflation in the first place. And her prescription for inflation? Stop, quote, price gouging. Though it's higher wholesale costs, not corporate greed, that's driven eye-popping costs of basic goods. Biden himself tried both to bribe the voters and blame the corporations' gimmicks. Harris is barely even repackaging them. And her only other fresh idea comes straight from the opposition. Donald Trump's no tax on tips and J.D. Vance's boost the child tax credit talk. She's actually dropped any ideas that distinguished her from Joe. banning fracking, supporting single-payer health care, doing away with ICE because they were losers when she ran on them 4 years ago and are even worse now. But the DNC show will use pomp and circumstance to paint Harris as the second coming of Barack Obama, which, as you know, we predicted last week, but which is already happening. They're already painting her as the second coming of Obama. But the DNC, as I said, will try to call her the second coming of Barack Obama, a symbol of hope and change. That's why they're rushing Joe on stage and off as soon as possible on the first night. The big crowd pleasers will be the Obamas the second night and Bill Clinton on the third. The Clinton thing still shocks me. But Kamala Harris herself has to carry the final, still bringing nothing new to the table, leaving undecided viewers to ask why the candidate who stands for the Democrats' future is so hopelessly less inspiring than the ones who stand for its past. And that speaks to what I was saying, the optics of seeing a Clinton or the Obamas giving a speech, doing what you assume would be a good job with it, and then see Harris and the awkwardness, the choppiness, even though it'll be on teleprompter, but the kind of cadence. And it may make, as the New York Post says here, may make some long for the past, not so much for the future. Now, Jackie Calms, I think this was with Los Angeles Times, but don't quote me, said Democrats are embracing that hopey, changey thing again in Chicago. Will it work? We'll get to that when we come back, but you might have saw my earpiece fell out. So stay with us. We'll read your comments when we come back. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Attention homeowners. Are you tired of paying too much for your energy bills? It's time you discover Koala Insulation of the Southern Tier, a premier insulation contractor. The professionals at Koala Insulation can give you a free, no-obligation insulation evaluation. It's one of the best home improvement investments you can make. Give us a call at 607-463-0616.
Discover Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. We are fully insured. Visit koalainsulation.com and find us near you.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and
And we are back with Frankly Speaking. Sorry, I was fixing that and I didn't get a chance to read your comments. So we'll bring up comments after the next break. We've got a lot of them coming in. So thank you for that. And I apologize, I was just running a little bit late. But we'll try to get to as many comments as we possibly can this morning. So much to talk about, obviously, with the DNC. I think this is a little corny, the way Jackie Calms, and it may not be Jackie's fault. for the headline. But Democrats are embracing that hopey, changey thing again in Chicago. Will it work? Go ahead, Democrats. Party like it's 2008. In just a month, Democrats have gone from dreading their national convention to dying to attend. Some Democrat officials and operatives had scheduled August vacations to have an excuse to skip the 4-day affair. Now they're sorry. Be there or be square. Different candidate, different convention. Instead of renominating President Biden amid polls showing him behind Trump, the Democrats will crown a far spunkier Vice President Kamala Harris. She's already gotten under Trump's thin skin, drawing such large crowds that he claims photos of her rallies are AI generated. And she's pulled ahead of him in the same polls that formerly had Biden losing. Once again, Democrats are embracing that hopey-changey thing they last savored 16 years ago when they made Barack Obama their standard bearer. Conventions are political theater, scripted to a party's advantage. Okay, there was that previous Democrat convention in Chicago in 1968, and this one, thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters could make trouble. These gatherings are the single biggest opportunity for candidates to grab voters' attention before the election. 25 million viewers caught Trump's meandering acceptance speech last month at the Republican convention. It was a long speech, I know that. So enjoy the week, Democrats. It could well be the high point of your 2024 campaign. Because once Harris leaves Chi-Town with her running mate, Walz, they face 10 weeks of trench warfare with a gutter-dwelling rival who knows no bounds. Whew. Okay. Harris, a rattled Trump, had cursed the Democrats' switcheroo and the reversal of his political fortune. He ludicrously claims Democrats staged an unconstitutional coup against Biden. I'm not going to go through all this. What else do you want to call it? I mean, who was it that said it? Well, we'll talk about that later. I know I keep highlighting it. But so there will be a lot of Trump bashing, and he's earned it. But until a month ago, Harris, like most vice presidents, was little known and little more popular than Biden. As the convention tells the Harris story, expect to hear a lot about her job at a McDonald's one summer during college to blunt her coastal cosmopolitan persona. Harris's acceptance speech, the convention's finale, will be more crucial than usual. Typically, nominees come to the podium as familiar figures who've been campaigning for up to 2 years, not 4 weeks. In selling herself, she must also sell the achievements of the Biden-Harris administration. Too many Americans remain unaware or unbelieving. But more than that, she must flesh out vision for the next 4 years beyond just finishing the job. Another imperative, countering Trump's othering of her as not quite a real American. Okay. Beyonce or not, by the time Harris reaches the podium, she will have had plenty of high-profile help setting the stage. On Monday, primetime speakers will be Biden, who's likely to receive a great reception and gratitude as much for passing the torch as for his service, and Hillary Clinton, who'd hoped to be the first woman president, but pointingly will argue for the honor to be Harris's. The lineup telegraphs another contrast between the Democrat Party and a Republican Party dominated by a single vengeful man. Recall the no-shows at Trump's convention. George W., Dick Cheney, Dan Quayle, Mike Pence, Paul Ryan. Democrats expect to be one big happy family in Chicago, and just like actual families, they'll need their unity and harmony for the inevitable rough road ahead. Where is that rough road coming from? It's not from the media. The media's been fine with no press conference for this long. The media is going to prop her up. Trust me, she will have so much momentum coming after this convention because they'll say, look at she did the best that's ever been done. The whole convention was wonderful. She is the right candidate. It is her time, as Time Magazine has put it. Never mind that not a single Democrat got to vote for her. But just keep in mind, the coverage this week is going to be very, very frustrating in the weeks after. So I don't think it is trench warfare up until the end. I think she's got her plan, and it's the basement campaign that Biden ran just for Harris. Not do the press conferences, not speak off the cuff, do hokey things like, did you see they had this to show that she's like one of us, that she had to go on a Doritos run at a gas station. Tim Walz shared a video that appeared to show him finding a red bag of nacho cheese Doritos and handing it over to Harris, who was standing in another aisle. Emhoff could be seen holding another bag of chips in the video. Every road trip needs a snack break. Doritos acquired. I got you, Kamala Harris, wrote Walz, which I think you know Walz didn't actually write it. His campaign people did. In another video, Harris could be seen standing inside of a Sheetz with her husband before she walks off in search of trips. Dougie, there they are. Thank you. Handing the Dorito. Most normal people don't make such a big deal about locating a bag of Doritos, but congratulations on humanizing or something said Murtaugh. Yeah. The shock in the video of her, oh, there they are, as if a gas station isn't going to have Doritos. These are the kind of things she's going to do to make her just like you and me. Not a coastal elite. She has a history of this, and it normally comes off extremely awkward. One person wrote, do you realize those cost more 20, excuse me. Do you realize those cost us 28% more now than they did 4 years ago because of Kamala and Joe, referencing the cost of Doritos? All right, whatever. That's to, again, humanize her, however, make her like one of us. And she did go off script, and it was, as predicted, a disaster. She was at a campaign stop in Pennsylvania on Sunday. Our election, this is a quote, our election is about understanding the importance of this beautiful country of ours in terms of what we stand for around the globe as a democracy. As a democracy, we know there's a duality to the nature of democracy. On the one hand, incredible strength when it is intact. What it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, their freedom, incredibly strong and incredibly fragile. Yep. Do you agree? Let me do it one more time. Why not? Our election is about understanding the importance of this beautiful country of ours in terms of what we stand for around the globe as a democracy. As a democracy, we know there's a duality to the nature of democracy. On the one hand, incredible strength when it's intact, what it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, their freedom, incredibly strong, incredibly fragile. Kind of typical. It's really kind of a joke at this point because she does really have the same kind of cadence and talking point when she gets into that word salad mix. She also told, I'll tell you what she told a high school football team when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Want to know why it's hard to stop a train? It's how we've invented products that reinvented our world. It's how we test as hard as the elements do. It's how we run.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York is a local, veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years experience. From service and repair to new installations. Trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with a no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
Major League Baseball on Fox.
Hey, what I'm doing, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live, you don't believe it, just watch.
Jaw-dropping stuff. Major League Baseball all season long on Fox.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Akam. Thanks so much for joining us. A couple comments from viewers. I wish people would do their own research on Kamala Harris. She has no good policies of her own. She was trying to steal all of Trump's ideas. Wake up, people. Vote for the man that has tried and proven policies and has got your back. Trump 2024. Thank you. From a different viewer. If at all anything that is being proven during this election, Democrat voters actually have absolutely no say in who they voted for. The voters don't count or mean anything. Big donors will always decide for Democrats what is best for them. Enjoy. Yes, thank you for that. Apparently, Democrats are okay with it, and the media is okay with it. Again, I asked the question this morning because we always thought about it, well, you know, if they had done this to Republicans, how would I feel? But think of this. If they had done it to Republicans, how would the media have covered it? Do you think it would have been, wow, the momentum's really there now that they installed Trump? Imagine if, let's just use Trump. Imagine if they said, okay, he never received a vote, but Don Jr. is the Republican nominee. They would call it a lot worse than a coup, a lot worse than a threat to democracy. So you can see the bias just in the coverage of how that all went down. But yeah, according to Democrats, they must be fine with it. There's no real concern over the party elites and the big donors picking their nominee for them, as long, I guess the attitude is, if it's anybody but Trump, they don't care who they're voting for. And really, they may just be trained to feel that way and not feel bad about the not having a say in their nomination process, because they didn't back when Hillary beat Bernie, right? So maybe they're just used to it, and they've accepted the fact that the elites picked their candidates for them. Now, Harris spoke to a high school football team about what it means to be a role model, and added that part of being a leader is knowing they would be undefeated if even they did not win each game. It's not easy being a role model. Welcome to the Role Model Club. Being a role model means that members of your family, people you know in the neighborhood, others, your classmates, they want you to see what you want to see what you will do. What goes into that kind of excellence? What goes into being a winning team? And you all have taken it upon yourselves to take on that responsibility of being role models and to inspire people who may not even know they are watching you to see how you can achieve success. And by doing that, and all that requires, which is the hard work, the practice, working as a team, knowing that you will be undefeated even if you don't win every game. But no circumstance or event or moment will defeat your spirit and your fight and your preparedness to win and excel. That nothing will dampen your spirit of excellence. That's what I'm counting on from each of you. And that's what makes our nation strong. Interesting. I know some coaches would be very excited to hear that. To know that they are undefeated even if they don't win every game. Now, again, the media is pushing back at Trump's comment that this was a coup, and others have said it's a coup, but they're reading nefarious things into it. Again, because the media doesn't want to cover how this all went down, just like they won't want to cover the protests. They won't want to cover Harris's past policy positions or the U-turns that she's taken on them since. But a powerful Democrat said that Biden, whether or not you like it, was ousted in a coup. New York Times columnist, yes, New York Times columnist, a Biden and a Harris supporter, Maureen Dowd, deemed President Biden's ouster a coup. Quote, even though it was the right thing to do, because Joe Biden was not going to be able to campaign, much less serve as president for another 4 years, in a fully vital way, it was a jaw-dropping punch. At some point when the polls cratered, Democrat mandarins, I don't know what that is, decided to put the welfare of the party and the country ahead of the president's ego and stop catering to his self-regarding fantasy that he was the only one who could beat Donald Trump. Continuing here, one of the most ruthless and successful tacticians in congressional history seemed sheepish about knifing her pal and conflicted over whether to take credit. Et tu, Nancy? Biden must have thought. Kamala can't be thrilled that Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer hesitated to endorse her because they wanted more moderate rivals to compete in an open mini primary. And Biden and Harris staff are also touchy as Kamala layers on her own people. Those who pushed out Biden should be proud. They saved him and their party from a likely crushing defeat, letting Trump snake back in and soil democracy. Now, Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, spoke with Anderson Cooper and said he disapproved of the coup against Biden. I think that was wrong, Klain said. Yeah, a lot of people are upset with it. But whether or not they like it, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't exactly, again, this is Maureen Dowd, it wasn't exactly Julius Caesar, but it was a tectonic shift. And of course, there were going to be serious reverberations, even though it was the right thing to do because Joe Biden was not going to be able to campaign, blah, 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 as I had already mentioned. Yes, now there's that awkwardness, and you'll see it tonight. That's why they're getting him in and out on the first day, Biden giving his speech tonight. That awkwardness. Remember, a lot of the people in that audience, a lot of people behind the scenes are the exact ones that called for Biden's ouster, this coup to happen. And with Nancy and others now saying, oh, he's the best. And that's what they'll present him as tonight. He's the best. He should be on Mount Rushmore. There was no kumbaya. Biden didn't care about the 3 generations of love Pelosi told Jen Psaki that her family had for him. The president already resented Obama for shoving him aside for Hillary, and he resented Hillary for squandering the opportunity and losing to Trump. Even though Obama tried to do everything quietly to protect his saintly status, Joe was furious that Obama was sidelining him twice. And again, I go to Ron Klain, who said, I think it's unfortunate because I think that the president had won the nomination fair and square. 14 million people had voted for him and the vice president as vice president. I do think, the president was pushed by public calls from elected officials for him to drop out, from donors calling for him to drop out, and I think that was wrong. Dowd ended her column on a cheeky note, satirically highlighting the irony behind a party that has been fear-mongering about the loss of democracy since 2020. Those who pushed out Biden should be proud. They saved him and their party from a likely crushing defeat, letting Trump snake back in and soil democracy. I don't think she said that satirically. Oh, hey, some more waves come in. But now all of the glowing pieces inside the fast-moving launch of Kamala Harris for president. And that's another thing, and I'm glad that they mentioned it there. Something that you're not hearing in the media, another thing that they omit. It did take a long time for the Obamas, Schumers, and others to endorse Harris, not wanting it to necessarily be Harris. They know her flaws, like the word salad that I just mentioned, not doing good off the cuff, very confusing, as a matter of fact, off the cuff in most instances. 3 weeks into her presidential run was the first time the Biden campaign pollster, now hers, held a deep dive call with Harris's inner circle to discuss what she's been saying on the stump. Over the line came a lot of praise, but also some suggested tweaks. First, said veteran Democrat numbers man Jeff Guerin, summarizing their analysis, stop saying we're not going back. It wasn't focused enough on the future, he argued. Second, lay off all the weird talk. Too negative. Yeah, I wondered if they would stop with the weird talk. Yeah, it was, to them, it was cute at first, and the media ran with it, saying, oh, it's impactful. They don't realize how powerful that is and how it makes people think that Vance and Trump are weird. Now they're saying enough. Harris's advisors listened. They considered the arguments. They decided to stick with what the crowds were chanting in the arenas. When advisors who had been on the call briefed the vice president on the suggestions, according to CNN's conversation with close to a dozen people involved with internal campaign decisions, she told them she wasn't going to listen to the pollsters herself and would instead trust the instincts she had buried under self-doubt for so long. Wow. Now, is that the best idea? Because when she goes on her instincts, it does not typically go well. But I like that line that she had that instinct that she had buried under self-doubt for so long. Yes, because for the last 3 weeks, she has had a whole media, everyone around her be yes men. And she is doing it the best. She is doing it the greatest. No one can be smarter than her. So why would she listen to anybody else? That is very interesting. And it could be the ultimate destruction of her campaign. Harris has shocked even people close to her with how she's been coming across in just 4 weeks since she became a presidential candidate. Many political obsessees who had largely written off the vice president can't understand how a woman whose early struggles they still keenly remember is now projecting as succinct and punchy, comfortable on stage and in her own skin. When she reads from a teleprompter, for heaven's sakes, this is such a lovey-dovey piece coming from CNN. Part of this is a strategic decision to limit her appearances and hold off from sitting for an interview so that her only major moment without a teleprompter or aides first editing video was on the tarmac at Andrews Air Force Base as she greeted the Americans returning home in President Biden's prisoner swap. A snippet of her jumbled syntax was quickly pumped out by the Republican National Committee operatives and others. Quote, "This is just an extraordinary testament to a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances." That's what she said at the time. But yes, it was pounced on, as they always put here, pumped out by the Republican National Committee. But the media didn't cover it elsewhere. They were very happy not having her give the interviews, not try to speak off the cuff. So they admit in this piece by CNN, it is a strategic idea not to have her speak to the media. And again, the media is fine with it. Democrats are fine with it. They never got the vote on Harris, which apparently they're fine with. And now they're fine if she doesn't answer questions, if she just gives telepromptered speech. And while several Democrats, and now we learn that her instincts are so true, why would she listen to anybody else? And while several Democrat officials told CNN privately that the turnaround for a politician whose weakness haven't magically disappeared may be setting the party up for devastation if she stumbles, Harris isn't just feeding off the burst of Democrat good feelings that followed Biden's exit. She's feeling a sense of liberation, campaigning for herself rather than calibrating around Biden. No, I think it's more she is being surrounded by people that are saying how great she is, how powerful she is, that she's the best to ever do it. Her ego has gotten to her. This is her clear voice. When she says, "I will sign this into law," those are her words. She has never been able to speak before. Okay. It was her job to be the strong partner that Joe Biden needed in his administration. Wait, are we ignoring her time when she ran for president back in 2020? A brain trust around her dinner table, separate from Wilmington headquarters. Okay. Enough about her launch, her momentum, the amazing race. You can finally trust her instincts. Forced her out of her early psychological bunker. The president doesn't do local interviews because it muddles the message, one aide said. President is the president. We don't have that luxury. Harris put in her own request, more drive time radio. But mostly they stayed away from the traditional political interviews and toward influencer conversations and targeted constituency media such as podcasts. Anyway, enough on that. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
All right, sorry, it just keeps muting on me, and I apologize over that. We should be back on here. We had a couple little technical glitches there, something with the program and missing a break. So I'm going to do some research into it, but I think we should be back up and running and sounding good here on Frankly Speaking. Let me know if you cannot hear me. It looks like on the screen that the microphone is working. So let's go through some of the comments from the viewers during the break. Let's see. Here we go. Frank, the actors, actresses, vocalists, and sports superstars are obviously the most intelligent people on the planet. They manipulated a single skill set of pretending to be someone, belting out a pleasant melody, and playing a game at the highest level into a multi-million-dollar payday that takes our minds away from the rigors of actual life. Why wouldn't we want pretenders, people with nice voices, and people that can play a game at the highest level to influence the electorate of the country? Yes, the way George Clooney goes is the way the country goes. Listen, the Democrats have been very good. Oh, we got a couple waves coming in. Have been very good at exploiting that celebrity. Now, it didn't work for Hillary Clinton. Will it work for Harris? That's the ultimate question. If the Beyonce shows up or a Taylor Swift, it will be the biggest story of the day. So prepare for that. That will be very tedious after a while. And much of the coverage is going to be tedious. Let's go to another comment from a different viewer. If Republicans did it, meaning if all of a sudden Donald Trump Jr. was appointed and never receiving a single vote from a Republican, you can imagine what the media would say. This viewer says they would call them kingmakers and nothing else. Yes, the elites, like the Democrat elites that chose Harris. Yeah, if it were Republicans, they'd be kingmakers, but it'd be something more nefarious, too. Who are these people behind the scenes? Who are these delegates that chose this candidate for the Republicans? What you really need to know. Was it the Koch brothers? Was it big money? That's exactly what they would do. You're 100% right. The kingmakers. In this case, they don't even talk about the elites and those who picked Harris. They act as if this is a normal process. And who knows? Maybe this will be the normal process. They seem not to be able to trust their own voters. As we saw back with Bernie and Hillary, and as we saw this year. So maybe they'll like this system. Another wave there. I asked the Democrat friend about her being appointed without any votes. He agreed, but just shrugged his shoulders. Yeah, there's nothing that you can disagree with there. That's exactly what happened. But that seems to be the reaction when I've talked to just a few people. And I don't normally relay conversations we have because I don't want my Democrat friends to think I'm always going to use it on the show. And that's not the case. But the few people that have been open to talk about it, that's been I just don't want to vote for Donald Trump. I would vote for ham sandwich if it was running against Donald Trump. So that seems to be the attitude overall. Next up, I think if the media doesn't go anywhere with it, that's the direction they go. I'm not sure what that means. I think if the media doesn't go anywhere with it, that's the direction they need to go. Frank, can't you or someone from Fox get an interview with Kamala where you could ask her the tough questions? No, I don't. She's not going to go on Fox News. She's definitely not going to come to Frankly Speaking. So no, though I appreciate your faith in me. But I don't think she'll do Fox. They can use the idea that it's not the platform that supports Trump. You know, they ignore the bias that they have in their favor with every single outlet except for Fox. And they're not happy with that. They still will not do anything at Fox, and I think Republicans would be smart to follow their lead and say, no, we're not going to go to CNN. We're not going to go to places, as that one article had last week, that called Trump fascist on a regular basis. Yeah, maybe we don't do a sit-down interview with them. Maybe we don't do a debate. Now, I do think it's remarkable, and I do think it's very important that Trump does a great job of not just preaching to the choir, where I think Harris will end up preaching to the choir. Her first interview will probably be with an MSNBC, someplace like that. Now, keep in mind, she said she hopes to do one interview before the end of the month. So one interview in a whole month. This is their strategy, just like CNN begrudgingly admitted in that article that their strategy is to keep her away because they know the word salads are bad. So keep her away from the media and keep her away from interviews where she can't control what is said, what she can't edit. And that's why they're also admittingly not only ignoring the media, not doing press conferences, they're trying to buy the positive news. What do I mean? planning $370 million fall ad buy. The Harris campaign is booking at least $370 million worth of television and online ads in key battlegrounds to run between Labor Day and the November election. The spending includes $200 million for digital ads on platforms. On those digital platforms. Nearly a month since Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed Harris, she's been working to define herself to voters before Donald Trump does so first. That's coming from CNBC. How has she been working to define herself when she won't go to the media? Just a teleprompter and speeches at rallies? That's how she's trying to define herself? Okay. The media is fine with it, folks. I'm in the media. To this viewer's question, I'd love to interview her. I'd love to have someone from Fox interview her. I'd love to have anybody interview her with fair questions about kind of the asterisk, if she wins, of having never received the vote to be the nominee. What did she know about Biden's health? Because a recent poll showed that a large majority of Americans believe that she knew about his mental health situation. Oh, I just heard the Corning whistle. That means it's time for me to take a break about 2 minutes ago. Stay with us. We're just wrapping things up. We're moving fast this morning. Don't go anywhere. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Our water's better tasting. It's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm Mary. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Marching orders are. Next up, good morning, Frank. Good morning. Hi. As much as I don't think I can stomach the DNC show, I need to see if they will eat their own in some instances, or at least get an idea of some of their thoughts. Yeah, that's why I find it important to, and listen, it's not fun, I understand, but to sit there and watch it and just to see what the talking points are going to be, what the narrative is going to be, see for yourself and not believe the mainstream media. See what you're actually seeing. And that's going to be why it's very important to watch Harris's, because they already have the articles written up about how great Harris's speech are, but I want to see it for myself and compare it to the Bill Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens that spoke before her. Now Biden is again tonight. Another comment from a viewer, and I thought this was a really, really good comment. There is no reason for Democrats to ever have primaries again. Democrats are allowed to pick and choose who they want, and are allowed to eliminate those they don't want, like RFK Jr. New York is now removing RFK Jr. from running. Yes, taking him off the ballot. I couldn't agree more. And the Democrats seem fine with it. They're happy with the elites of their party telling them who they have to vote for. For whatever reason, the Democrats have a history of not trusting the American voter, but definitely not their own party, their Democrat voters. Now, the left-wing Washington Post, I wanted to spend a little more time on this, but we're running out of time. The Washington Post, left-wing Washington Post even slammed Harris's price gouging crackdown plan. saying that she's actually squandering the moment with populist gimmicks. Instead of leveling with voters and saying inflation spiked in 2021 mainly because the pandemic snarled supply chains and that the Federal Reserve's policies, which the Biden-Harris administration supported, are working to slow it, the Veep opted for a less forthright route, blaming big business. This is coming from the far left, Washington Post. I don't want to go into Miss Harris says she'll target companies that make excessive profits, whatever that means. Thankfully, this gambit by Miss Harris has been met with almost instant skepticism, with many critics citing Richard Nixon's failed price controls from the 70s. Whether the Harris proposal wins over voters remains to be seen, but it sounds economic analysis still matters. It won't. The editorial board had a warmer opinion of Harris's housing plan, saying it was built on a slightly firmer foundation. So it's a gimmick. David Brooks, who is, they claim, a Republican, New York Times columnist David Brooks, said the Harris gouging proposal, quote, expresses a level of economic illiteracy, which is kind of surprising in a reasonable Democratic candidate. And that the entire idea requires you to believe that we had all these years of low inflation under Obama and under Bush's. And I guess people weren't greedy then. And then Biden gets in and suddenly magically they all get greedy and start price gouging. I think the child tax credit is a good thing. She wants to deregulate housing so we can get more houses. But the price gouging is just, well, Catherine Rampel, the Washington Post columnist and a NewsHour contributor, says that it's impossible to exaggerate how bad this policy is. And I agree with that. And Catherine had a good line that if your opponent is calling you a communist, maybe don't lead with price controls. And so price controls just create shortages. They create black markets. We've seen it happen in Venezuela. We've seen it happen in the Soviet Union. Price controls just don't work. What's worse about that, first, is trying to address a problem that does not exist. Grocery prices, inflation, have been less than 1% for the past year. It's over. We had a surge, but it's over. The problem does not exist. Okay. But the real core problem is it expresses a level of economic illiteracy, which is kind of surprising in a responsible Democratic candidate. The idea behind greedflation is that we had all these years of low inflation under Obama and under Bush's. I guess people weren't greedy then. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, Governor Gretchen Whitmer says that people are reading too much into the specifics of Harris's price gouging plan. Oh, okay. Just trust them. Don't read too much into it. Well, I think people are reading too much into what has been put out there. We know that Kamala Harris is going to be focused on building up more affordable housing. We know that Harris has already delivered on making sure that health care is more accessible and affordable for Americans and will protect Obamacare. So you're reading too much in it. And Governor Andy Beshear from Kentucky says that it's akin to Teddy Roosevelt trust busting. On the Harris economic plan that you mentioned, there was also this federal ban on price gouging on food and penalties for companies that exploit crises. President Obama's top economist, Jason Furman, was critical, saying the good case scenario is price gouging is a message, not a reality. And the bad case scenario is that this is a real proposal. You'll end up with bigger shortages, less supply, and ultimately risk higher prices and worse outcomes for consumers. Do you know how this would work? And Beshear said, I do, because I've been an attorney general just like the vice president. I pursued price gouging statutes and their violations when it comes to the price of gas in Kentucky, and we won. And ultimately returned millions of dollars to our people. This isn't about trying to price fix. It's about making sure the economy is operating the way it should. That is really supply and demand, which we all respect. It's no different than what Teddy Roosevelt did in breaking up monopolies. It's just making sure we have the right regulations and tools in place to make sure everybody is playing the game fairly and by the rules. Let's take our last break, and then we're going to wrap things up here on the Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
It's the Chevrolet Summer Drive Sales Event and Blaze Alexander Chevrolet Buick GMC of Mansfield. The brand new Traverse is here. We have 5 in stock and they're ready to roll. Plus, we have the all-new Equinox EV on the lot. We're offering discounts and rebates as much as $11,000 on new Silverado 1500s and up to $6,000 on Silverado 2500 and 3500s. Get rates as low as 1.9% on much of the new Chevy lineup. Stop and shop or check us out at BlazeChevyMansfield.com because we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call.
And we are back. Now, I understand the last go-around, some of your comments were cut off because I had the music playing in the background. Sorry, that was a computer issue. So let's go through these comments, shall we? Some that I already read, but you may not have heard, and some brand new. So many Democrats follow marching orders from the mainstream media. Yes, they do. But some speculate, is it the mainstream media that's controlling the narrative, or is it the Democrats controlling the narrative? But I do believe Democrats are following their marching orders from the mainstream media as well. Next up, good morning, Frank. As much as I don't think I can stomach the DNC show, I need to see if they will eat their own in some instances, or at least get an idea of some of their thoughts. Yes, I'm excited to see their thoughts and compare it to say what the media tells us the next day. Next up, there's no reason for Democrats to ever have primaries again. Democrats are allowed to pick and choose who they want and are allowed to eliminate those that they don't want, like RFK Jr. He is being removed from the New York ballot. Next up, why is no one talking about the impact of the third party's effect on state-by-state votes? Is it that much in the bag for Democrats now? Well, I think there has been a little talk, so that's why they're trying, Democrats specifically trying to take RFK Jr. off the ballot. So, yeah, there isn't a lot of talk in the media, but I think behind the scenes they are working to silence third-party candidates. You may have heard this one, but I thought it was a really good comment from Ken, so I'm going to reread it in case the music was playing over it. The actors, actresses, vocalists, and sports superstars are obviously the most intelligent people on the planet. They have manipulated a single skill set of pretending to be someone, belting out a pleasant melody, and playing a game at the highest level into a multi-million-dollar payday that takes our minds away from the rigors of actual life. Why wouldn't we want pretenders, people with nice voices, and people that can play a game at the highest level to influence the electorate of the country? I know it's shocking, but it doesn't make it any less true. Next up, I wonder if the color scheme for the DNC will be red and yellow. Good question. How about this from a viewer? And I think we can all relate. Just yesterday at Walmart, I spent over $170 for 6 small bags of groceries. Talk about inflation. Plus, I don't believe the 1% rate. Yes, it's heartbreaking sometimes going to the grocery store, isn't it? Because you know it's just going to cost you so much. I don't believe the 1% rate. I like when they'll say, oh, the numbers are good. Well, if you take out notoriously volatile gas and food prices, you mean the things we need to live? But yeah, $170 is nothing to drop a couple $100 on basic needs and basic groceries. And that's why Don Lemon was interviewing voters in deep blue New Jersey, and they were actually showing support for Trump, and he couldn't believe it. So, of course, he starts by saying, does it have anything to do with her being a woman? Because if you're a Trump supporter, you must be a misogynist, you must be a racist, etc. Another voter saying, 4 years ago it was a lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now. Lemon said, I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy was better under Biden. Can you believe the media can say that with a straight face? And I know I'm out of time, but I know you feel that way. And I know the viewer who spent $170 for 6 small bags of groceries yesterday, I know you feel like you had more money under Trump. But that's just not what my paperwork and my statistics say. Imagine that. So the person he's interviewing starts to laugh because he didn't expect to hear pro-Trump people. Starts to laugh. He says, no, I'm serious. So the voter shot back, so you watch CNN, which ironically, of course, Lemon used to work at CNN. All right, we are out of time. Boy, there's Biden's being accused of abuse of power, obstruction, and a blistering House Republican impeachment report. Hours before his DNC speech, you can find that at the New York Post and elsewhere. We are out of time. I can't keep talking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. What great comments. What a great kickoff to the week. Fun Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Have a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, and I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.